Hey, happy Friday. I hope everyone can hear me. I'm not at my usual setup. Wait for a couple people to come on. If you are on IT, I probably won't be able to see your comments. So bear with me. Hello, happy Friday. How is everybody doing? Give me a win from the week. I am going live from Chicago, Illinois. I am here at my sister's house for Passover. I'm going to celebrate Passover. So happy Easter, happy Good Friday, happy Passover, whatever you celebrate. I hope you're happy. We're getting ready for the holidays, and we drove here yesterday, and so I'm not at my usual setup. Hopefully you can hear me. Can you give me a thumbs up if you are you are here? And tell me if you can hear me okay. Let's see here. Rachel, Matzo Ball, Rashida, bunch of people on Instagram. Hopefully you can hear me okay. All right. So today I thought we'd talk a little bit about money. Money. If you're on our email list, you might know that last week we talked a little bit about the adoption tax credit, which is a huge help. For me, that allowed me to be able to pay back people who were gracious enough to loan me money. As soon as it came to me, it was out the window, but at least I knew I could pay people back that lent it to me. So the adoption tax credit is huge. I recommend if you're just starting out, definitely Google adoption tax credit 2022. It's a lot of money. I know it's over $14,000 that you can get back after your finalization from your taxes. So it's a huge prep. This week, I just wanted to kind of run down the different expenses that you can expect in adoption. So take a deep breath and brace yourself because it ain't cheap. I'll tell you that. So, I'll just start by saying that this idea of buying a baby, it's definitely not, you're not buying a baby. You are paying for all of the layers and the expenses that go into the adoption process. It's complicated, and there are a lot of people whose hands need to be in it in order to make it happen legally and ethically. So we have things like, agencies. They have to keep their lights on, right? They are scrutinized and get, I don't know if audited is the right word, but something like that every year where they have to, show what they're doing. They have, your social workers, a lot of back and forth travel, expectant mom's expenses because you want to make sure she's being well taken cared for, and legal, consultants, agency fees, all the things, travel. So let's break it down a little bit. So first and foremost, if you are hiring a consultant, which I would recommend you do, it's a really good idea. You're looking at anywhere between, I'd say, $3,000 to $5,000 on average. Of course, these are all averages. Some can be less, some can be more. But consultants usually range from around $3,000 to $5,000. Now, for some consultants, they have a term for how long you can work with them, same with the agency. So you'll want to know that. And then what happens if you don't get matched for something within that time. So that's number one. Number two is your home study. You cannot adopt without a legal home study. A home study can be done by typically most agencies will do home studies. And there are a lot of standalone home study providers as well. So there are pros and cons to each. You certainly want to know the cost and what's all involved in the process, but you also want to know, if I get a home study from you, are you yet another place where you will know me and you'll have my profile, and whether or not I sign up with you to be a fully active client, there might be an opportunity for you to see a situation if you are with a place who does matches and who does placement. So just something to think about, but maybe it's not worth it either way. Maybe it's about getting it done quick. So anyways, there's pros and cons to everything. So how much does the home study cost? Well, it depends what state you're in, honestly. And you need to know that home studies, there's three parts. There's the home study, where you're going to reveal all your financials, you're going to reveal somebody's going to come to your home and make sure you have the right space and that your home is safe, and you're doing the background checks and all of that. And then there's post-placement. So after you have adopted, your home study caseworker needs to come to your house a certain amount of times before finalization, and that amount of time is going to depend on the laws of that state. So that's what determines it. So you'll have post-placement visits, and also a lot of states require adoption education. My hope is that one day all of them do. But they don't yet. So education, does your home study provider provide that? Is that included in the fees, or do you have to go out and pay for that stuff? So I want you to keep all of that in mind. With all that said, you can imagine it's going to range. And so I think that the range is about 1,500 to 4,000. Again, give or take on either side. Some home study providers are not including all of what I just told you. You want to make sure that you know what the full fee is going to be when all is said and done after you adopt. So you want to ask, does it include post-placement? Does it include education? I know in Chicago, which is where I am right now, home studies are on the highest side. So 4,000, 4,500, whereas maybe in Texas, I've even heard 800. I'm guessing that doesn't include post-placement. So you want to just make sure it's inclusive of everything. There's not much you can do about avoiding those fees. You must have a home study. Then there is the placement agency fee. Does anybody have I see others having audio issues. Wait, hold on. Thank you for saying something. One second. Okay. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Dave, are you still with me? Can you hear me now? If you're on Facebook or YouTube, can you hear me? Please let me know, because someone was having audio issues. Okay, thank you. Good. I'm in a different setup today, so I had to change my settings, and I didn't do that. Are you hearing me okay on Instagram? I can't see you, so hold on. Okay, can you know what? I'm going to move. Hold on. If you're on Instagram, I'm moving you so that I can see what you're saying. Sorry. Hold on. I'm so professional. I am very professional. Okay. Now I won't be looking at Instagram, but I can now see your questions. Can you claim that credit multiple times if there's a failure and then success, for example? Yes, and not in the same year. So, and you know what? I could totally be lying. You need to check that, but I know you can claim if you had a failed, you can claim for the failed. And then if you adopt, you can then claim for the adoption. I just don't know if it can be in the same year. So you'll have to check that out. I would, you could Google it or talk with an accountant who might know about the tax credit. Yeah, if you Google tax credit, you can probably find that out. So I'm sorry, I'm not an expert in that, but I know that you can claim for a failed, and you can claim multiple times. So placement agency fees, that also, it's so hard to answer questions in general about adoption, because everything is nothing is apples to apples. Agencies can can set up their agency the way that they want to. So agency fees can really range. It can be, I'd say, upwards of about $15,000 to $40,000, honestly. So agency fees can be 15 to 40. Sometimes, again, that's inclusive of other things. Sometimes that's just the agency fee, because on top of the agency fee, and that's let me back up for a second, because you might be saying, oh my gosh, but you say go with multiple agencies, which we do. We think that's the best strategy. How the heck can we do that if it's $40,000 or $30,000 or $20,000? You can't. That is not their application fee to become active. Those fees usually kick in after you're matched, is when you're going to pay bigger chunks of the money. So that might be their overall fee, but you might not pay even half of that until you're matched. So there will typically be a certain amount of money that you pay to become active with them, what I'm calling an activation fee or an application fee. Now, those can range when you're doing a multi-agency approach. You want to look for the agencies who charge anywhere from $0 to, let's say, $3,000 up front before you pay any of the big money. It's all relative. I know $3,000 is still a lot of money. So if you can find those agencies, you can sign up with multiple agencies without having $10,000 on the line, right? So agency fees alone can be anywhere from 14 to 40. I'd say 40 is on the really high side. I'd say probably 15 to 30. And then you're going to have expectant mother expenses. Expectant mother expenses, again, it's going to range really broadly depending on the situation. How far along in her pregnancy is she? What needs does she have? Is she living somewhere? Is she homeless? Is she going to need shelter? Does she have transportation to get to her appointments? Does she have Medicaid? I'd say about 95% of the expectant moms are covered by Medicaid. And if they're not, the agency will typically help them. So typically, medical expenses are not part of what you'll have to pay. But if you do, they're probably going to be around $10,000, anywhere from $7,000 to $10,000, I would say. So expectant mom expenses can really range from, I'd say, from 5 to 20. And there goes the dogs. Somewhere between 5 to 20, really. And so it's hard to add up all these, but we'll talk about that in a second. Then there's going to be legal expenses. So everybody must have an attorney to finalize their adoption. Now, sometimes that attorney fee is rolled into the agency fee because the agency has an attorney that they use. And usually that's the easiest. But you can certainly shop that around. Sometimes it'll affect the full fee that you pay to the agency, and sometimes they say, well, you can use another attorney. It's not going to affect your fee. So everybody needs an attorney. There may be other legal fees involved depending on how smoothly your adoption goes. One moment, please. We're with 2 dogs today. And one's a little louder than the other, but that's okay. They're having fun. Ish. Okay, so it's depend on how smoothly your adoption journey goes. So if everything goes smoothly, you're really just going to need to pay for finalization. If you have anything that's contested, it might get a little hairier, and those legal fees may increase a little bit more. Don't forget to count on travel. A lot of our families, most of them, will travel out of state for an interstate adoption. And so you have to count on how much is that going to cost. Certainly, if you can start saving miles and racking those up, or points, whatever you want to call them, to use to fly, do that. Because travel fees are going to be a little high because you don't want to book a travel, you don't want to book a flight until the very last minute. If you can drive, you might want to drive to save some of the costs. And hotels, you don't know how long you're going to stay there. We typically say 7 to 10 days on average, but it could be longer. Hopefully it'll be shorter. So it definitely all adds up. It is a lot of money, but what we're still seeing is around $45,000 to $55,000 all in from start to finish. Can it go higher? Yes. I just saw a situation come through yesterday. It was $68,000. I wanted to puke. I mean, that's just disgusting to me that those fees are climbing that high. If you see something like that, please don't think that that's how they all are. They are not. And depending on who you sign up with, you could see a total wide range of fees. One agency can have really low fees. Another agency could have really high fees. Why? That might depend on how many placements one agency is doing. How much are they spending on advertising? Versus another local mom and pop who really only want to do 1 to 2 a year. So there's so much to consider. And you want to know what's their, what kind of activity are they seeing? Where are they? How do expectant mothers come to them? How do they work with them? There's so much involved. And the more involved it is, the more, it's you that covers all the expenses. They are not going to take that on. So that all falls in our lap. So I'd still say 45 to 55 all in. Certainly foster to adopt is like nothing. Independent adoption, meaning if you match on your own independently. So it's never a bad idea to let everybody if you're open, that what you're doing, because you never know if somebody has a friend who has a friend who has a cousin who's thinking about placing their babies. It happens every day, all the time. Some people will get on different sites to show their profile, do their own, marketing, get on Facebook, and people match independently all the time. If you do, then you really only have to pay the attorney fees. And then you're looking at anywhere from, I'd say, 7 to 15. It's a lot less. So there's so much to consider. It's really complicated. There's so many layers, which is another reason why I highly recommend a consultant. Of course, I'm going to say that I am one, but I do. In some instances, working with a consultant, even though it feels like a lot of extra money up front, can actually save you a lot of money in the back end. And I'll give you for instance, I have a family who signed up for our online academy. So we have both private and online academy. Our online academy saves you a couple $1,000s right off the bat. Then, because they were an African-American couple, and by the way, I've said this before, this private adoption is in such need of Black couples. I told them, don't sign up with any agencies because I get requests for Black couples all the time. Sure as shit. 3 in 1 week. And I mean, they applied to one, matched right away. And then 3 other organizations called asking me if I had Black couples. So in that situation, I know they saved a lot of money. So you just never know. The other way that consultants can help you save money is because we help our families vet every single situation that comes through. We want our eyes on that with our families so that you're not missing anything. The last thing we want to happen is for you to call us up and say, we're matched, and we had no idea. And we say, oh, okay, great. Do you want to send us the situation to see? And we look at it and we're like, oh my gosh, they should have never. This is going to be a fall through, and we can sometimes, listen, nobody can predict the future. We've been wrong before, but there have been plenty of times where we have saved our families from walking into a situation that we know have a lot of red flags. So that's another reason a consultant is really great. And if you're working with a consultant, use them for that, because that's a huge piece of what you're paying them for. All right. Any questions about anything? Money, anything else? What are you doing for Easter? What are you doing for Passover? What are you doing for Good Friday? Anything? Anybody have a win they want to share from this week? I had a win. We have 3 babies born right now, one hopeful mama on her way, traveling today. One who's sitting at the hospital with their baby, just waiting for relinquishments to be signed. Another baby that was just born with a family that was on their way yesterday, and that match that I just talked about today. So, woo, huge wins for RG Adoption Consulting and our families this week. It's exciting. It's exciting to see all of the momentum happening suddenly. It's been a little quiet. Matzabal Schmal said, just found out that my company is offering $30,000 adoption assistance starting soon. Woo, woo, woo! That's amazing. That's amazing. I am so happy to hear when corporations are getting on board and wanting to support their employees through the adoption process. I wish they gave that money up front so that more people could work with consultants, but that is just fantastic. I know that will help a ton afterwards, because I think when your companies do help, it's usually once you at least bring home your baby, but probably once you finalize. Do you know? Let me take a sip. Let's see, Ash 18516. Is there a meaning to those numbers? Our home study paperwork is finally completed and submitted. That is a huge load off of your shoulders. So congratulations. You can breathe for a second, but not too long. Now you got to do your profile and the agencies. There's still a lot of stuff to do, but that is a huge hump. And now you are approved, or at least soon to be approved. Let's see. Yay, so exciting. Don't have the details yet, but I think it's just after expenses incurred. Oh, well, that would be nice. I don't know. That would be cool. That would be cool. I don't know too much about it. From what I understand with corporations, if they have adoption assistance, typically it's after you adopt, you turn in your expenses, much like the adoption tax credit. But if they will do it sooner, that's great. I'm just wondering if they want to know that you have actually adopted, or what happens if there's a fall through. I don't know. These are questions you might want to ask, but certainly, and I am so glad you brought that up, because certainly it's worthwhile to go to your company to ask what kind of adoption assistance they have, if any, because some of them do. Whitney said, we're officially live with 3 agencies, joined 2 just this week. That's amazing, Whitney. And that's huge. And Whitney, I hope you have connected with some people in our community. I know that you are looking to do so. And now I want you to circle back with your consultant to learn how you can put your best foot forward and put yourself in the best position to match, because we have some tips around that. We definitely see some trends. Let's see, anything else? All right. Those are some great wins. Love to hear them. All right, I am going to go start cooking and helping my sister in the kitchen. But oh, good, Whitney. I'm so glad. Until next Friday, have a wonderful week. Have a wonderful holiday. If you're on the adoption roadmap, if you're around people this weekend who are pregnant, who have babies, and it's hard for you, I want you to honor that. It's okay to walk out of the room. It's okay to say you can't, attend something, do some self-care, honor your feelings. For me, I found that if I could pour my love into somebody else who is going through what I so want for me, then maybe it'll bring me some luck. So don't ever give up hope. Stay on your roadmap. And if you veer off, that's okay. Come right back on. Love you guys. See you next Friday, and happy holidays.